Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second annual Cartridge Club Awards. I am Musty, one half of the hosts of the Cartridge Club Prime podcast, and I'm your moderator for this evening. To anyone not familiar with the Cartridge Club, we are a community of gaming enthusiasts, both retro and modern. And it's with this modern perspective that we're going to look at this evening's festivities. 2018 was a special year for games, and we want to take this opportunity to recognize those games that the club adored. We will also take time to recognize members of the Cartridge Club community for continuing to provide new content in the form of podcasts, videos, and/or blogs. And lastly, we'll be taking a few moments throughout the evening to reveal our games of the month that will fill out the remainder of Season 6 for Cartridge Club Prime, so stay tuned. I know my co-host and I are sure that you'll be really excited about what we've chosen. Now, let me introduce my CC Prime co-host. It's Rocket Sauce, and give him a chance to introduce himself and our panel for tonight. Ryan, thank you for being here with us, and take it away.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Ryan. It's Rocket Sauce, and thank you once again for joining us on our second time doing the Cartridge Club Cartridge Club Awards. So, it's not just me and Musty. So let me introduce you to the panel here. First up, we have the man who has played everything from 2018 and also beaten it. We have Dean.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
We also have from the Frantic Thoughts podcast and the Cartridge Club's very own Duff Man, we have Josh.
Hey, great to be here.
And lastly, we have from Flock the Flock Talk podcast and my favorite employee, Miles.
Hello, boss. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And thank you for watching the show, if you're watching and participating with us live. I'm going to set the stage right here, kind of do a quick explanation of how the voting worked this year, because there were some slight changes. So, quick recap for the Game of the Year award. We have give you the choice of 3 choices this year, and each one of these choices came down to a point system. So your first place choice will get you your game 3 points. Your second place choice will get you 2 points, and your third place choice will get you 1 point. So whatever you like the most gets you the most points. Also, for the podcast of the year, we did something very different. Well, not very different. We did something additionally to the podcast of the year award, where we gave you 2 choices for your favorite podcasts. And so for your first place choice, got you 2 points. Your second place choice got you 1 point. So we use that to help see if to change things up a little bit differently this year. And the main reason we did that is because last year we heard from numerous people saying that they wish they could have voted for another show besides just the one they were voting for. Like, it was a really tough decision for them. So we're kind of hoping maybe with this choice that kind of helped with this, resolve. I don't think it was a big issue, but we wanted to see if this changed things up. So I'm glad we kind of did this here. And we also kind of had a little stipulation with the voting system here because we didn't want people double stacking on the podcast votes. So we kind of told everyone when we kind of opened the votes that if you voted for the same podcast show twice, your second place vote wouldn't count. It was crossed off. You missed out on a second place vote. There was an NA option. So some people who got your hardcore fans of your favorite podcasts, sorry, that just wasn't going to be this year. That being said, there wasn't too many people who did it, but just pointing out that it happened. So hopefully next year it doesn't happen so much. We also have, like I said, Musty said, our community vote. And, we also included votes for Prime and Portable like they did last year, and your favorite game that you played from last year that maybe wasn't released in 2018. So we had these options. That being said, let's get into some of the voting here. Musty, you want to reveal the first category here for tonight?
Sure. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, let's not delay this any further, and let's get started with the first envelope of the evening. And we all know that as gamers, we don't all play new releases. In fact, some people may exclusively play non-new releases. So for our first award of the evening is going to be the selection for the best game not from 2018. And the CC award goes to... These are stickier than I thought they would be. Context. The award goes to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was our game of the year for 2017. So it seems like some people actually took some advice, finally got around to playing Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild gets the first award of the night. Of you guys all played Breath of the Wild last year, didn't you?
I did. I loved it. I just want to point out, I think Miles loved it the most, but
I've never played a Zelda game, but that one looks all right. That one looks, we'll see.
We'll see. No, it was like Musty said, it was our number one choice last year, so it doesn't surprise me that it showed up again this year.
Very interesting. We'll see if they can pull off the repeat next year. So let me then shift into we got a lot of envelopes here, so I'm just going to show you. We got a lot of envelopes to get through. So we're going to roll right into our next award, which is for the CC Portable podcast, which is run by Curtis, our own Curtis Friesel, and he has selected a number of games through 2018. Now, his seasons start in June, so we're kind of straddling season 1 and season 2 for him. Ryan, could you give me a read off of all of the nominees for this?
Sure thing.
The CC Portable one?
Sure thing. So we had Metroid Prime Pinball, which was January. We had Metroid Fusion, which was February. We had Sonic the Hedgehog, which was April. We had Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which was May. We had Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which was June. We had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Back from the Sewers, which was July. We had Elite Beat Agent, which was August. We had Gargoyle's Quest, which was September. We had Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, which was October. We had God of War Ghost of Sparta, which is November. And then for December, we had Capcom Classics Collection Remixed, which was December.
Yep. And the podcast for that just came out a couple days ago. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that just yet, please do go check that out. And let's go ahead and see what the club selected as the best CC Portable game from 2018. Yeah. Ruining these beautiful envelopes. And it is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. So welcome to the Zelda Awards, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, the club definitely enjoyed that pick, and Curtis, thank you for selecting it. We look forward to next year. I'm really excited to see what you have on the table as well. But any thoughts on Link's Awakening? Yes, Miles.
I'm a little curious here if all the people who voted were from Hyrule. Things are looking a little suspicious this year.
Well, it does seem like we have a trend, and actually, it's with that trend in mind that I want to announce the first of our Prime Game of the Month reveals. So for the month of April, we wanted to play a game in a long-running franchise, very much in line with the previous 2 awards, and playing a game not only exclusive to a Nintendo console, but a cartridge-based one. So, for the month of April, Cartridge Club Prime will be playing The Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Yay.
So we're going to be going, and I know this one is contentious, but I am excited. Brian, this one was on your list as one that you have yet to complete, right?
Yeah, it's one of those games that I once I got sucked into being a Zelda fan that I started going after every other Zelda game that ever came out. And it was one game that I got all the way to the very end. I saved my file. I had supper. I came back and my file was erased. The classic battery error that happens with NES cartridges. So this is the only Zelda game I have yet to beat on a console. So hopefully with April, I can actually finally beat it. So
very good. Yeah. Now I should point out, as I forgot to mention, that that's not till April. So we still have ahead of us. We have Shantae Half Genie Hero, which we are playing right now for CC Prime. February, we are playing Catherine for the 360 or the Xbox. No, I'm sorry, the 360 or the PS3. And then in March, we are going to be playing What Remains of Edith Finch, which may or may not still be free right now on one of those. I can't remember at this point. So that is what we have ahead. But again, that is for April. We will be playing Zelda 2, and I expect quite a podcast out of that one for sure. Anyone else have any thoughts there before we move on to CC Dean? Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to comment on this year's portable run. I think it really emphasized how many games I had yet to beat in the portable realm. Of the 12 games, I had only played one previously, which was Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, and that was my vote as well. But that's not to say that there were just tons of new and fun experiences this year with Metroid Prime or Metroid Fusion, Metroid Pinball, like Sonic the Hedgehog, Phoenix Wright, like a lot of really big staples that had somehow just gone under the radar for me. So I was really happy to see this year's lineup, and I'm really looking forward for 2019.
Very good. So let's get right into the next one. We are looking at the flagship podcast, CC Prime, and let's take a look at CC Prime's Game of the Year. And Ryan, can you read me off those candidates one more time, please?
Sure. So for Cartridge Club Prime, we had Dark Cloud, which was January. We had Odin Sphere, which was February. We had The Last of Us, which was March. We had Kingdom Hearts, which was April. We had Halo Combat Evolved, which was May. We had Axiom Verge, which is June. We had Street Fighter 2, which was July. We had Super Mario World, which was August. My page will scroll down. We had Doom 2016, which was September. Resident Evil 2, which was October. Red Dead Redemption 2, which is November. And then DuckTales was December.
Okay. So the Cartridge Club Prime Game of the Year for 2018 is Super Mario World, which was our August. This one was actually selected by our patrons, and we will be doing the same thing this year in August for our patrons. They'll have the ability to nominate and vote on the August Game of the Month. But everyone, I assume, got a chance to play that. This is Josh. You love yourself some Super Mario World, don't you?
Yeah, I went back and replayed it again when it was Game of the Month, and I love getting all the secret exits. And then I always get inspired and go play a ton of Mario Maker afterwards too. So that was fun. It's a great game. It's one of the best games ever. So I'm not surprised that it won.
For sure. And I know we had a lot of fun doing that recording. That recording was the last show for P1 and P2, who cannot make it here tonight, unfortunately. But we miss those guys, and looking forward to having them back in our lives very soon here, in whatever capacity that they are willing to be. But I do want to also take a moment here to thank Ryan for joining me on the challenge of filling the shoes of them as hosts. And I know that we want to make sure that we're selecting games that we believe the club will enjoy, even in cases where one of us has yet to play it. So that brings us to May. May's game is one in a series that I've never touched, and I am looking forward to diving in before the next one comes out this year after such a long wait. And so for the month of May, Cartridge Club Prime will be playing
Kane Lynch.
Shenmue.
That's right.
Yeah, I know, Ryan.
You know, with me hosting this show, we're gonna play Shenmue at one point in time. So,
well, you'll get your yeah. So hopefully Zelda doesn't destroy you, and you can.
It might be a good palate cleanser. You know, there's a lot of not too many people like Shenmue. Not too many people like Zelda 2. So,
well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see
about that. But I hope that's exciting. And yes, we got a Sega title in there. I know that sometimes we kind of forget about that stuff because they don't have their own system anymore. So it's good to get that. And the recent remaster, of course, is available. And as I understand, Ryan told me that just got patched. So some of the hindrances and things that were annoying at launch are no longer a problem. So I'm pretty excited. A little nervous about it, but
it's cheap now, people. So go buy it. It's cheap.
It is. Amazon has it for a great discount right now. But yeah, let's keep going. We are gonna hit the first. This is our new category for this year, and this is one of the things that makes our site as interesting as it is the fact that we not only have our featured content providers, and in future years we will be implementing some awards that do recognize those featured providers outside of the podcast, which is we'll hit podcast of the year later. But our community contributions this year have gone up immensely. We have a lot of people contributing things, sometimes on a daily basis, and we really appreciate that because it allows people to have an opportunity to get their stuff out in front of others and to get it in front of the club. And so what we wanted to do was recognize the Cartridge Club Contributor of the Year, Community Contributor of the Year. So the requirement here was that you had posted at least 2 items through the community section. And so there were scenarios as well where some individuals may have a podcast, but they're also submitting things that aren't podcasts through the community section as well. So those people were recognized there. And on the ballot, we made sure to put links to everyone's channels for those who are posting that. And Ryan, would you do me the honor of reading off the list of nominees? And these are people who have posted at least 2 things to that community section at some point during 2018.
So we had Base Guy, we had Canadian Retro, we had Old Ass Retro Gamer, we had Curtis, we had Discard, we had Dubious Gaming, we had Frantic, we had the Game Grinder, we had the Retrolectors, Polykill Travis, Raiho, Scott's Game Asylum, Super Mad Attacks, Tesseract Unfolded, and Weekend Rental Podcast.
Okay. So, with that in mind, the Cartridge Club Community Contributor of the Year, as voted on by the fans, is Travis from Polykill.
The inventor of the Kablau.
The Kablau. Yep, that's right. So
That's
congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations to Travis for winning a Community Contributor of the Year. Unfortunately, I don't think he can be here right now, so we'll make sure he knows all about it soon enough. All right. So let's get into, wow, we're cruising right along, but we're gonna get into the games. We're gonna talk a little more about the games when that comes up. But let's look at June. So this season, actually for June, Ryan and I wanted to find something exclusive to a PlayStation console. So we've generally been looking, everything that we've done so far has been generally cross-platform, at least most of the season. So in previous seasons, we played Sony exclusives such as The Last of Us, Odin Sphere, Dark Cloud, Shadow of the Colossus. But for the month of June, the PlayStation exclusive that the Cartridge Club Prime will be playing. Come on, envelopes. I got this one good. Like trying to get treasure out of it. Get it. We will be seeking for treasure in Uncharted 2.
I was gonna say, was that the hint? Was that the hint there?
That was ad-libbed, but it worked. It worked. So we're playing Uncharted 2 in June. One that I have not played. I only played the first one, and so I'm pretty excited. And everyone seems to say that that's the best one, right?
Yep, the best Drake game. So
best Drake game. So yeah, so we're pretty excited about Drake 2. It's happening. Hey, so with that, we're cruising right along, making good time. So we're gonna get into these the top 10. So we, as Ryan had sort of detailed, you had up to 3 votes, and again, your votes allotted certain points toward the games, and so we then broke that out into and totaled it all up. And we have our top 10, and so we're gonna just get going right now from the bottom, counting up. We're gonna start with number 10, and number 10 is one that was actually not even on the ballot. It was a write-in. and that is Mega Man 11. So we have I know Dean, you spent pretty good amount of time with this one and a lot of Mega Mans this year. So tell us a little bit about Mega Man 11.
Yeah, this one was. You're right. I played a lot of Mega Mans. I got the Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2, and I got Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2, which in total was like 30 Mega Man games plus Mega Man Zero. So I had a lot of really good Mega Man highs, and I wanted to try out this new one with everybody else. I hadn't played the demo yet, but after playing it, it stands out above all the others as my favorite Mega Man game. This game is awesome. It takes all those classic ingredients like the stage selection, the weapon system, the rock, paper, scissors aspects, but it adds this layer of polish that I hadn't really seen before, not only graphically, but mechanically as well. So it's not just an elemental weapon that you're getting, fire is good against ice is good against whatever. There's different trajectories for each of the weapons. Some of them come from under, some of them go around. And so there's that whole mechanical or logistical aspect of these weapons that really played into it. And they introduced a new gear system with the power gear to power up your weapons or the speed gear to slow down time. And I think that was the showmaker for me. That needs to be introduced into all the legacy Mega Mans and all the Mega Mans going forward. That ability to slow down time not only allows you to practice better, but it also adds a really fun mechanic to the game to make you feel like a pro. So it's hard, but it's a Mega Man game.
Very good, and I'm actually very pleased to see that that we had a write-in make it. I know that last year our ballot was 37 games long, and even at that point we missed for people. And again, apologies to those who had games that they couldn't vote for last year. But yeah, it's great to see that right out the gate we have that. Anyone else want to comment on Mega Man 11, or maybe have a desire to get into it now that they see that
it's on my want to playlist. The thing is, I forgot about it. It came out in October, right? It just is one of those things where I think maybe it came out at just a bad time. Where if it came out probably in the summertime, I would have probably picked it up day one. It just came at a point in time when I was probably really busy. And I just forgot about it, but it's on my want the playlist, so I should be picking up, shortly here.
Let's keep it going here. We actually had a tie for 8th place, so we have 2 games in 8th. I will just randomly pick which one here. There was no tiebreaker, so we're gonna go with this one. Let's see. One of the number 8 games of 2018 is Forza Horizon 4 for the Xbox One. And this one was one that came out. It was their big September release. And Miles, you spent some time with Forza Horizon 4?
Not until very recently, actually. So it was part of Game Pass, the Xbox program that is kind of like Netflix for games. And one of the great things about Game Pass this year was the fact that they added a bunch of new releases, like first-party new releases. And Forza is a game that I've always kind of been interested in, and it's just the best driving game. Like, Mario Kart's the best kart game, but if you want an actual driving game, nothing is better than Forza. And you can just get lost in the different seasons in Forza 4, which is kind of what the whole thing's about. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful game.
Yeah, I agree. I played through the demo. They put out the demo right before the game came out. And I love the progression of just that. It's about 6 or 7 minutes of gameplay, but they take you through all 4 seasons and introduce you to pretty much every racing type that you're going to come across. And it's so well crafted. And some of the stuff like the fighter jets going overhead as you're driving down this long straightaway, just pedal to the floor, like, felt really, really good. And if you're looking for a game that, if you're trying to show off your 4K TV to somebody, I think that that this is a great example of what 4K gaming looks like in a driving capacity. There's other games, and we'll get to other games that hit that that graphical level, but yeah,
One other thing,
Forza was top for me, and even just in playing that demo. Go ahead, Miles.
one of the other things I want to say. First of all, you said Forza. You pronounce it like Forza. Forza. I don't know what you're. I don't know if that's a thing. But so one of the things I really like about Forza is that you can play the game however you want to play it. There's multiple different ways you can race. And then on top of that, there's like stunt missions. It's a stunt driver game. And you're kind of doing things like you do in Burnout, where you're trying to cause a lot of destruction to gain additional skill points. And there's roulette wheels, and it's really addictive. So, yeah, it's a great game.
So yeah, if you have Game Pass, check it out. It is on there. It was included from day one. So go play your Forza Horizon 4. So moving on. Unless anyone else had some final comments there. Nope. Okay, moving on. The other number 8 game of 2018 is actually 2 games. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. This was our stopgap, right? Our Switch stopgap for Pokemon games. And Dean, you spent some good time with this game, as I know some others in the community as well.
Yeah, I finished it 2 days ago, and that's to say I beat the Elite Four. I became the Pokemon champion, but I have probably 4 or 5 Pokemon left to go to complete my Pokedex. There's a lot of post-credits activities that you can do, and I was blown away. Like you said, this was sort of a placeholder before we get the official Pokemon release in 2019 or later. And yeah, I didn't have high expectations, but playing through it, I think despite the polish that Sun and Moon have, I've always thought that the best place to start in the Pokemon franchise is with Red, Blue, and Yellow. There's just a lot of simplicity there. There's like 800 Pokemon now. Back then, it was only 150. So it's a little more appealing for newcomers. But this game has totally changed my mind on that. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee is the definitive place to start. It simplifies all the mechanics from the catching and leveling up system. It gives you more intuitive menus. So there's no more PC, go to Bill's PC to switch your Pokemon, survival horror style inventories where you have to switch out your items because your pockets are only so big. This is fully intuitive. You're standing before a trainer. You have access to 150 Pokemon. Just switch them out in your belt as you need to. It's just so fun. It takes all the fun aspects of Pokemon and it overhauls it with a nice graphical polish. It's fantastic. So I'm really happy to see it on the list. I understand why it's not higher on the list, but it is a good game. Don't discount it as a simple remake.
Very good. Thank you, Dean. And I know there are some others I know that gave some good time into that game or are playing it actively now. But yeah, I might be one for those with kids. I think that good starting point, it seems that Dean was indicating there. So, okay, let's go. Number 7. And number 7 game of 2018, as voted on by the Cartridge Club, is an indie title, Celeste. And this is actually if you have Xbox Gold, this is free right now. So if you haven't already downloaded this, go do that. If you are a limited run type of person, it's also available for pre-order right now. But Josh, I know you spent a lot of time with this game. Do you want to talk us through your experiences with Celeste, or give us kind of your feel for it?
Yeah, and Celeste is up there as one of my favorite games of the year and one of my favorite 2D platformers I've ever played. And I think the thing that's kind of magical about this game is my cat in the background. Has to happen, and is the way that the gameplay connects with the storyline of this woman overcoming herself. She's basically at odds with herself throughout this entire game. And as you climb this mountain, Celeste, she discovers more about herself and then ultimately comes to accept herself by the end of the journey while she's at the top of the top of the mountain. And what's cool about that is because the gameplay is kind of analogous too, because each screen it's a hard game. It's a really hard game, just like life's really hard, right? So each screen you pass, it feels like you overcome something with her. And it's kind of a cool storyline, and I just loved how it played out. I've played this game like 5 times this year. It's just kind of my go-to game this year, just to chill out and play a level or whatever. And it has a lot of secrets too, and you collect these little strawberries, and they're kind of like not necessary, but it's kind of a cool collectible, and they give you little challenges, and then you can collect these little tapes and unlock new B-side levels with new remix music and remix level stages that are way harder. And I haven't even beat all of those, but the game is just a lot of fun. And I think another cool part about it is that anybody can play it because it has these really, really good, what am I looking for? Handicap options, not handicap. That's the wrong word. Where you can accessibility options. That's the word. It was escaping me, but you can continue your jump. If you fall, you don't die, stuff like that, to help out people who aren't as good at this game to experience the story, which I think is worth playing. And obviously I love this game, so highly recommended for me. So
very good. Yeah, and I have to echo your comment about the music. I think is fantastic, and it was one of the things, not to call out other awards shows, but they did a really nice job of mixing in that music in with the full orchestra, and it was really, really cool. But Miles, you've only recently dabbled in this game, I assume as because of the Xbox download then, or go ahead and tell us about your few hours with the game.
So I had a little bit of a dabble. And before I get to my views on Celeste, I just want to say, you said you don't want to call out the other award shows, but 2018 had a lot of games that weren't in the other award shows. I'm just saying we took everything into account by holding this thing back. So maybe we should call out some award shows. Now to Celeste, this beautiful, beautiful game. It's kind of like Super Meat Boy, but there's so much more hidden in this game. One of my favorite parts about it is as soon as I turned it on, the game said like some motivational message to me. Like it was like, hey, you can do this. Believe in yourself. And I was like, whoa, hey, that's new. That's a new thing that I haven't experienced before. Give me some more of that. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. So yeah, I'm having fun with it, and I might continue it. I might finish it. Who knows?
Dean, you played through this as well.
Yeah. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a hard pass on digital downloads. If I can't touch it, I don't want it. But maybe just taking the time to thank Josh for listening to his praises on this game really convinced me to give it a try. And I think early on I was sold. I mean, I knew the music, I knew the gameplay was fun, but I didn't expect those emotional tones to resonate so well. There's a point in the game or a line that says, imagine a feather in front of you. And it's just kind of floating there in front of your head. And as you breathe in and out, that feather goes up and down. And you just want to calm your pace and keep that feather floating in front of you. And that's something that sounds so silly, so trivial, but it's really kind of stuck with me. It stuck with me certainly throughout the game to not get too frustrated. But I've sort of taken that away to real life. And every once in a while, just imagine that feather in front of you. Don't get too frustrated. Just keep it in front of you, and life's going to be okay. And I think in a year with such big heavy hitters, I think it's a real testament to how indelible of a mark the indie scene or the indie community has made in gaming and continues to make in gaming. I mean, this was put together by 2 guys, and this is an incredible experience that I think everybody needs to try out, even if you get frustrated with games. So I think that's really cool, and I'm happy to make this list.
Can I ask the whole group here a quick question? And it's just because there's going to be a physical release coming out for this game. Are you guys going to double down and purchase the physical copy of this game? Because honestly, I was eyeing up this game, and then I think maybe in November they announced that it was getting a physical release through Limited Run Games. And then honestly, I held off because I prefer physical and I hate actually doubling down. So that probably did affect me playing it in 2018. But it's, seeing the praise from this game really makes me want to purchase probably the physical release of this game. So I just want to know if anyone else here in the group here is planning on doubling down here.
Yeah, I to be honest, as good of a game as it was, I still kind of feel dirty about playing a digital game. So I think I'll buy it just so I can have it on the shelf and pretend that's the one I played. But yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah, I like that the collector's edition. It looks really beautiful. It has like a stuffed little plush and has the some tracks on a little cassette. Has a cool little collector's thing. So I'm gonna buy it for a PlayStation 4 since I have it on Switch. Gives me another excuse to play it again. So yeah, I'm gonna be picking that up this month.
I think I'm content with my digital copy right now. What I want to do is get a little more into that because the limited run is not something that I've ever gotten into, and technically I have all month, right? It's all month to get the pre-order in. So
yeah, you have a whole month to pre-order. It's not one of those you have to rush and jump and buy it, which is great. I'm glad Limited Run is doing that. So
that is great. At this point, I'm only a few hours in. I think I'm probably as far in as Miles is, and so I don't doubt that I will absolutely adore this game. But it is one that's like, am I going to play it as many times as Josh did, or is this going to be like a single run through for me? So that's a really good question. But yeah, again, reminder: if you are interested in physical copy, this is the month to do it. If that is your thing, so. Great. Any final comments on Celeste? Or we move on to number 6, and the number 6 game of 2018 is another indie game, Dead Cells. And so this one, bring up a little bit of history here. This one is the one that got Philip Muchin fired from IGN. If anyone remembers that whole deal. But that's not why the game is good. So let's actually ask people who've played this game. Miles, you have finished this game. Tell us about Dead Cells.
Oh yeah, I did. This game, Dead Cells. Woo! It was right up in my grill. It was in my head. I dreamt about it. I went to work and I was doing work, but I was thinking about Dead Cells. I'd get home, I'd play some Dead Cells, and then I'd look at the time and it's time to go to bed where I dream about Dead Cells. And it was kind of looping like that. That was my life for about half a month until I eventually finished it. And I just felt so rewarded for playing that game as long as I did, replaying all of those stages, the sewers so many times, the sewers. And there was just, once you get it, it feels so good to beat it. And it was funny as well. For me, humor is such an important part of a game, and Dead Cells really knocked it out of the park this year.
Excellent. And Josh, you also spent a significant amount of time with Dead Cells as well, right?
Yeah, this is one of those games I probably would usually avoid it, just because I don't like the backtracking aspect of some of these roguelike games. But I just kept hearing so much praise for it. I had to try it out, and it's pretty much what I would love out of 2D platformers, tight controls, and it's a lot of fun. And I didn't mind backtracking on this one, and I don't care if I ever beat this game. It's just kind of one of those, okay, I'll do one run every once in a while, and then maybe one day I'll actually beat it. But yeah, I think it's a cool time. So I guess I should mention what the game really is. What roguelike really is, because I just said that out of nowhere. But you die and you lose all your stuff, have to start over and recollect all your stuff, basically. And yeah, fun game. I had a good time with it.
Excellent. Then Any other thoughts on Dead Cells or no? Okay. Well, we're halfway through the top 10 countdown, so let's take a moment here to reveal the last of the CC Prime games that we will be revealing. So the month of July, as many of you know, is home to one of the largest conventions in the United States, and that is Comic-Con San Diego. And while the show itself has lately become more and more attached to movie and TV trailers and all other sorts of geek culture, the lifeblood of the show is and has always been comics and superheroes. So for the month of July, Cartridge Club Prime will be playing Batman Arkham City, which is the open world one. Ryan, you are an expert on this one, right?
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic game. So I hope more people enjoy it. And I know some people like Asylum, some people like City. Since I'm the host, I get to choose between the two. So,
and
sorry,
I'm a rookie to all the Arkham games, so this will be new for me. But I'm not a rookie to Batman games themselves. So
yeah, I've recommended City over Asylum for people who are like cautious about it, and City has gotten people to go back after beating it and go play Asylum. So I think City's probably maybe a better jumping on point than maybe Asylum, but that's just my opinion. I love them all. I hope everyone plays along. So, and they're cheap. They're all cheap. You can buy them so used, and they're so cheap right now. Fantastic, great game. Pick up.
Okay, very good. Well, let's get back into this countdown because we're making good time so far. We got a lot of people who are really excited for what we have at the end of this path. But let's hit number 5. The number 5 game, as voted by the Cartridge Club, is Octopath Traveler. Switch exclusive, Square Enix RPG, and Dean, you sunk as much time as you possibly could into this game. So I want to hear from you on this one.
Yeah, I actually have you to thank for this, Musty. So this was my second favorite game of the year, and I'm actually really surprised that it ranked so high in this top 10 countdown. I mean, it's a JRPG, which is already sort of a niche genre, but I'm really glad people gave it a chance. So we were at C3 in Chicago, and I was listening to your tales of Final Fantasy VI virginity and how it was your first time playing through and you were getting to the end, and I just loved that idea, and I really wanted to recreate the feeling of playing a 16-bit RPG for the first time. And at one point, Scott, the VG Collectaholic, was in her room, and he had the Switch just loud enough for me to hear the music, and I was sold. So I think the next day we went out in Chicago, and I bought it at an EB Games there or GameStop, and I played it the whole plane ride home. I don't think I stopped for the next 400 hours. Like it's a huge game if you put the time into it. But it's a really beautiful homage to the 16-bit genre of RPGs. You have 8 pretty unique characters with some subtly intersecting storylines, but it had me hooked the whole way through. And I think what really sells it is JRPGs traditionally are turn-based, and that grinding aspect really turns a lot of people away. But the engaging puzzle element that they've added beyond the elemental rock, paper, scissors aspect that incorporates timing and the flow of the battle just really kept it interesting the whole way through. It was smooth, it was satisfying. I was able to grind to really high levels without putting much thought into it. So I think it's totally deserving of being on the list. Really happy that it hit this number 5 slot, and I totally encourage everybody else to at least give it a try. Play a few chapters through one scenario or maybe 2, and if you like it, it's going to be good the whole way through.
Awesome. Yeah, I've only put about 3 hours in. I had picked it up. Funny, I think I picked it up before C3, and I haven't had an opportunity. I love the art style immediately. Like you said, it harkens back. It would be amazing if they decided to redo the Super Nintendo era Final Fantasies in this style. I don't know if it would work, but I'd sure like to see them try. They definitely brought their A team on this, and it is really something. I know that there's a lot of big fans in the in there, and but yeah, Octopath Traveler, number 5 overall. And we'll continue on with number 4. Getting tense here. Number 4 is the latest released game on this list, and that is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And this one's the big deal, right? This is everything that Nintendo, first party Nintendo, was pushing for, and I know I've put in some good time with it. But Ryan, let's talk to you. You are a Smash aficionado. I know you were super excited for this game. Tell us where you're at so far, and why you think everyone needs to give this one a shot.
So it's honestly it's everything from the Smash Brothers series. And I know that sounds stupid and everything, but it's great. Yeah, I think it's an example. I wish other fighting games would take this into account, that you're getting 74 characters right off the bat for a game, for a fighting game. Most fighting games only launch with like 12, and then they just launch season after season, keep charging you, trying to bring you back for another $20. Here's 6 more characters. And that's how they build up their roster over the years. This one just gives you 74 right off the bat with, so many stages, and there's more characters still granted to come. Now, I've only had, the month to play this. I'll say this right off the bat. This was my number 2 game of the year for me. It could have been higher. But I have yet to really get further into this game. I've started the story mode, and I've been working my way through it, but I haven't beaten it yet. I've only done classic mode, which is about a 5-minute playthrough. It's essentially the basic Smash Bros. Game with how it started, where you have about 7, 8 opponents, and then a challenge mode. And then after doing it for each character, another character is unlockable, where you have to beat them to unlock them. And one thing I love about it is they're bringing back characters that have been gone from previous series, like Solid Snake from Metal Gear, which is fantastic. I know it's weird to say that, him being in a Smash Bros. Game, but he's kind of you have all these genres of characters where even if you're a fan of video games, I think people who even don't play Smash Brothers want to see their favorite characters in these games because they're so well made. I really wanted to probably dive back into playing this competitively. I love that some of the characters that I was really decent at, that I think I was decent at with, are even stronger this time. And I like the changes they made to the game. It seems it's like a little bit faster of a game. Makes me really want to learn this game even more. Like I said, it could have been higher on my list. I just wish I had more time. I wish if this game would have launched in July, this probably would have been my game of the year. Or if I could have really just put, I know the last game I put like a few hundred hours into. So to me, if I could have really sunk that much time into it, I probably would have liked this even more. So that's all I could say for Smash Brothers right now.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of the classic mode. I really like how they've there's some big surprises that come out of there. Surprisingly, that they've gone so far as to model enemies that technically aren't fighters. So I don't want to ruin that for anybody, but play classic mode.
You're absolutely right, Musty. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you are absolutely right about some of the surprises that are in this game. Fans of video games will love.
Yeah, there's so many different. It's kind of nice. One thing I was noticing is that it almost takes you down the path of unlocking, based on who you're choosing, right? So I gravitate toward Link as a main for the game, and so it was interesting how I finished the game with Link, and the first unlock I got was I think it was Zelda, and then it just took me down that path. Every time I was going, I was getting another one, and then when I moved over to play as Samus, then shortly thereafter Zero Suit Samus, and then Ridley. And so it's interesting, these kind of paths that they reward you for the things that you're clearly selecting because you have a fondness for them. But I have yet to really dive into World of Light, just because I know there's a lot in front of me, and I want to let Dean, you I don't know how you found all the hours in this year, but tell us about your experience with World of Light, because I know you put in a ton of time there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you guys can speak to the classic mode, because that's probably the mode I've put in the least amount to, and I'm nowhere near the fighting guru that you are, Ryan. So I can't really compare it to other games. But I think if I can just be an advocate for those single player introverts out there, if you're worried that a Smash Brothers game doesn't have enough single player content, just get that out of your head. This game is huge. This World of Light mode, I spent a solid 25 to 30 hours getting through with one character out of 74 characters, like 30-hour campaign for single player. And that only got me a small handful of the collectibles that you can collect through all of the different modes in this game. There's just over 1,300 spirits to collect, which are homages to previous Nintendo games. And each one of those 1,300 spirits has unique scripted battles that are just really well put together. It just keeps surprising you the whole way through. By the time I got the 1,300th spirit, it was just as surprising as the first time. So if you guys are worried that you're going to be playing against 9-year-olds and they're going to be kicking your butt and you just can't really get into the game, don't even go online. Don't even put your Switch online. Just play single player. You'll get 30, 40 hours of it easy. It's awesome.
That's great. And then, so Josh, Miles, any thoughts or comments on Smash, or shall we?
I'll just say I haven't had a chance to pick it up myself, but it was my most anticipated game of 2018, and I'll be playing it all next year probably. So, yeah,
very good. Okay, well, we're coming down to the end. We got 3 games left, but I think we want to, before we hit those, I think we want to give an opportunity first to kind of recognize some of the other games that got votes that fell outside of this, and do a little bit of honorable mentions. So Ryan, let's start with you on some of those games that the club really dug, but didn't really get the vote backing that we were needing to get it into that top 10.
Sure. So the number one that really just missed just by a point from getting into the top 10 was Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That one got a hefty amount of votes. It's the third in the trilogy for Lara Croft here, of the remake series here. And then we had a few other people that a few other votes that came through that just missed the vote. We had, is it Vampire? I think that's pronounced, or is it Vampire?
Vampire.
Is it?
It's a vampire.
I believe it's Vampire. So yeah, that just missed the vote here. Detroit Become Human just missed there. We have a couple of votes for Far Cry 5. So there was definitely some votes. Now, granted, probably weren't on the top 10 list that just missed it. So I hope people take that in consider in the fact that if you don't see the game that's on the list here, there's still a chance they can make the top 10. So.
Okay, and so now I want to do individual honorable mentions as well. So Dean, let's start with you, and then we'll go with Josh, Miles, and then I'll close out that.
Sure. So I don't know if mine would have ever made the list, but my honorable mention for 2018 is Detective Pikachu on the 3DS, and I'll tell you why. So I mentioned before we're sitting at like just over 800 Pokemon now in the full roster, 800. And the tried and true mechanic has always been, you got to catch them all. You catch one, you move on to the next. You catch another, you move on to the next. And then you show your friends, look, I filled out the Pokedex. There's no way for you to really dive into any one of those 800 Pokemon. And Detective Pikachu just abandons that mechanic altogether. Instead, I think they give you a really rich world where you can explore sort of a handful of those Pokemon and how they interact with society. What do they eat? What do people eat them? How do they live? it really dives deeper than sort of that catch and move on mechanic. And I think I've always thought that Pokemon would make a really good MMORPG where you can really dive deep and see how a society would truly interact with these weird creatures. So back in the 90s, first time we were playing the game, I think a lot of our childhoods were inspired, a lot of our imaginations thinking that this would be a really cool world. And this was the first time since playing Red and Blue that I sat back while playing a Pokemon game and thought, wow, this would be such a cool world to live in. So if you get a chance, give it a try. Play through the first 2 chapters. It's an awesome game, and it gives you a whole new perspective on the world of Pokemon.
I don't know how to top a Dean talk. He's great at explaining his thoughts. Let's see. The game that I was thinking of was Florence, which I turned a lot of people onto in the club, including like Seiji, and I know P2 liked it a lot. And it's a phone game, which I never play phone games. My phone is for Twitter and whatever other BS I get into. And I saw people raving about it, lots of articles about it. I'm like, okay, let's check it out. It's $3. It's a really neat story. It's a 1.5 hour game if you take your time. At the very most, you say would be at 1.5 hour, maybe an hour. And it's about falling in love and falling out of love. And the gameplay of the story is kind of cool because they use a touchscreen in a very unique way. And I just think it's one of those must-play games because you don't often play a touchscreen game that, like, at least I haven't played a touchscreen game that has shown that the mechanic can be used in such a cool way. So I'll just say one little example. They have these little word bubbles, and to do conversations, the word bubbles, you have to match them together like puzzle pieces. And throughout the story, stuff gets more complicated and the puzzle pieces get a little more jagged. And if the conversations are easy, the puzzle piece is one giant puzzle piece. So it's a really cool little mechanic they add to that. So, I mean, if you haven't checked it out, it's $3 and it's a great time. And there's a really cool bonus barrel episode that talks all about it too after the fact, if you want to listen to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the main game for me that missed out on this list is my favorite game of the year, actually, and it's Tetris, the Tetris Effect for the PlayStation 4, and it is the game I think personally that makes the best use of PSVR, maybe the most unique way to use PSVR. This version of Tetris was made by the person who made Rez, I believe. Correct me if is there another game that they made that was, I don't know, but one thing that Rez did really well was immerse you into a really exciting laser show with beautiful music, and they brought that to Tetris, and it was this beautiful almost like abstract art, and when you move the pieces, the music goes along with the pieces. And if you're playing this with a VR headset and headphones on, you're in a different world. And one thing that's super interesting about this Tetris Effect is that the game is actually easier to play in VR. And it's the same game if you're playing it in VR, not in VR, but it's for some reason easier in VR. I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful game. You should check it out.
Yeah, I have to echo that, but that is not my honorable mention. And I struggled on this a little bit because there was a game that I played earlier in the year that was good, but the game that I'm selecting as my honorable mention probably isn't a surprise, and that's Beat Saber. I was so excited when I saw that this was coming. I'm a person who generally digs rhythm games as it is. But there are some games out there that are like genre defining, and Beat Saber to me is like a platform defining game for virtual reality. The super simple mechanics, right? You have 2 blades in your hands. There are boxes coming, slash the boxes. The music in it is wonderful, and I'm shocked to find that most of the tracks are made by one guy from that team, which, again, that team is very small as well, but they continue. I've been playing on PSVR, and they've been supplementing the initial launch with some additional tracks, and we'll be continuing to do that, and I hope they support the game for a really long time. But I feel like there's a healthy difficulty curve. You can kind of, if you're a novice or if you're a veteran of this style of game, which there really hasn't been one that's just like this before, but you can amp up that difficulty however you want or dial things back if you need to. But the game's super approachable and at the same time can be challenging as hell. And so if games like Guitar Hero or Rock Band are what made you interested in the 7th generation of gaming, just know that Beat Saber is that for PC or PSVR. And then Ryan, did you have any other honorable mention of your own that you wanted to throw out there?
No, just for the fact that some of these ones maybe missed the list for me, but I guess for me, mostly, like I said this earlier, I'm gonna blame this on not having as spread out of a year like we had with 2017. That I feel as if I missed out on some games because it was kind of just too many good games at the same time. So I apologize. I just don't really have, I guess.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry. Anyways, so those have been our honorable mentions. I'm sure that you guys have a ton of games that you have played that either I know some of us play stuff that's more obscure, and definitely listen to your friends and try out some of these games. There's so many good games that did come out this year that are absolutely worth sinking time into. So something for everybody. So let's get back to it. We got the top 3. This will be going 3-2, and then our game of the year. So let us talk about
Shaq Fu.
Not your honorable mention?
Who likes racism, right?
Ooh. The number 3 game of 2018, as voted by the Cartridge Club, is Red Dead Redemption 2. And this was our November game of the month. And so a lot of our thoughts, at least a few of us, 3 of us, were on that podcast. So you'll get some of our thoughts there. But let me throw to who's going to talk about this one. Dean, let's start with you on this one.
Sure. This is a weird one for me. I think so. I believe that Red Dead Redemption 2 is the most well-made game we've ever seen. I think if you look at the history of gaming, I'm not saying it's the best game or the most fun or has the best music, but it's the most well-made game. It's the pinnacle of where we are in this generation. And I think it's going to set the stage for a lot of things going forward. I think from the very beginning of the game, you're sort of surprised. You're saying, wow, how did they know? And by the very end of the game, 70 hours into it, you're still saying that. You're still coming across people on the roadside that you're just like, how did they know? How did they know I was going to do that? Or where did they come from? Or how have I not seen this script before after traversing every mountain range on the map 20 times? How am I still finding new things? It's the modern day Shenmue is how I feel. I'm not saying it's as good as Shenmue or it can be compared from a gameplay perspective, but Shenmue had those wow moments where you're able to open drawers and play arcade games and turn the little gumball machines and interact with pretty much everything in your environment and get that reciprocal reward. While playing it, I had a ton of frustrations. There's a lot of flaws in the game because of its realism, because of the emphasis that they put on enjoying the environment and everything you can possibly do. But having completed it, it's definitely the game I think back on the most. So it wasn't my game of the year, But in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, I know I'll be looking back at this one and reevaluating where it sits in my top games of all time, because it's a beautifully made, well scripted, just impressive game the whole way through.
So Josh, let's have you talk a little bit about your time with Red Dead. I know you were on the podcast, so
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. When we were on the podcast, we stopped at chapter 3. Let me just say the story does wrap up really well. I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but I felt that the journey you go on throughout the course of the game was something you don't really see most of the time in a lot of video games, which even saying that's kind of a spoiler. I'm not going to go into it. But I love everything about this game. Like Dean said, there are issues with the gameplay, the pacing. There are times it can be frustrating. But all in all, I do think this is one of the best games ever made. Also, just from the technical aspect of it is just insane. And it's beautiful. Obviously, there are moments where it looks photorealistic, which it's mind blowing at times. And I love the music too. There's a lot of really great musical cues that happen during really critical parts of the story that just sent chills, throughout my whole body. And all the characters are really well thought out, and there are tons of great characters, and they all have backstory. They're not just standing NPCs that take dialogue options from you. They feel living, like they feel like they have life, and they feel so thought out. And just spending them as much time as I did with my Arthur Morgan, and I felt like I was that Arthur Morgan, and I had some agency when it came to that as well. And just interacting with all the characters and the people in this world was one of my favorite experiences of the year, and one of my favorite modern video game experiences as well. So yeah, love the game. Obviously, it's a great time.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of those games that people are going to look back on years down the road, and I think one of the interesting things is that, considering how long of a development cycle that this game had, there are some older mechanics, I guess you could say, but it absolutely works, and you are in for quite a ride as you go through this game. But Ryan, I want to let you kind of close out Red Dead here.
Sure. So, fun fact about this game, according to the poll here from the review surveys, we had this show up with the most third place votes. So, in conjunction with it line up with third place, it kind of the club majority who voted for it kind of locked it in with the third place vote here. Dean and Josh basically said majority of everything I need to say. Love the music, loved everything about the game here. It was one of those great games that I think if you're playing with people, friends who are playing at the same exact time, it's a great discussion game where you could talk with them and say, hey, did you experience this? And they see if, you get a response, and they'll be like, no, but did you see this? It's one of those kind of where it's like, whoa, so it makes you kind of want to explore the world more. The world is gigantic. Like, I still haven't unlocked the whole map of that game. So it's one of those games where I can go back into and just like lose a weekend on. So
yeah, just piggybacking off that, Ryan, you mentioned it's fun to play along with friends. I didn't mention it before, but this was far and away my favorite Cartridge Club Prime game this year. Just to be able to play it along, a new release, and listen to everybody else's experiences as they were going through, which were completely different than mine. It made the game that much more enjoyable. So if you're going to play it, try to get a friend to play along with you. It's going to be really rewarding.
Yeah. And at this point too, they've added their online. No, that's not what you're saying, Dean. You're saying, have your single player experience, but share your water cooler moments.
And then listen to the Prime podcast.
And then listen to the Prime podcast. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, let's get moving. We're down to number 2. And the number 2, big moment here. Number 2 game as voted on by the Cartridge Club for 2018 is God of War. And I'm just going to say, let me just say first, because this was my number one. This was my number one vote, and I have not experienced a game quite like this ever. And there's something about the way that they have taken a last gen series and reimagined it with modern tech and the cinematic eye. The tech that is behind this is absolutely incredible to me, and the fact that they're able to pull it off now. The no cut camera thing. It's funny because I went back to play Ghost of Sparta in November with Curtis. I got to see some of the threads that kind of led into this, right? The moments that kind of branch together two sort of arenas, and they I don't know. There's something about the performances. There's something about the world. Like, I wanted more. This was a game that, like, usually I'm the type who likes to dabble, right? I have 3-4 games going at once, and I'll hit this one on Monday and this one on Wednesday, and kind of go around. With God of War, there was no side piece. Like, God of War was everything for me for the duration of me playing it, and I absolutely adore it, and I'm having a hard time putting it all into words here, but I know that there's we've got a few other people. Miles, you didn't play Red Dead, but you did play God of War. I want to let you talk about God of War and your experience with it.
So this God of War was actually the very first God of War I've ever played. And I really like cinematic action adventure games. And I was really happy to find God of War was one of those. Right from the beginning of the game, when you're pulled outside of your cabin and you are just in the middle of one of the greatest fights of all time. And I know it's a lot of quick time events and cutscenes, but it did a great job of getting me interested in the plot of God of War. And I really like the voice acting in that game was phenomenal. Just there's a lot going for it. And I know there's going to be another one. There has to be another one with the success of this one. And the cliffhanger at the end. Woo! Come on. Sign me up. Pre-order it. Give me that Kratos lunch pack or something. I'm in.
Awesome. Let's see. Actually, we've all played this, so let's just go. Who wants to talk about God of War? Dean.
I'll just this was my game of the year. It was my Horizon Zero Dawn of this year. I played it early on in the year, and I knew then that it would be really hard to top this experience. I had played God of War 1 to 3, and it took all of the things I loved about those first 3 games, the battle mechanics, the skill tree, the just smooth flow of everything. And it took out the things that maybe I wasn't a huge fan of or didn't know I wasn't a huge fan of. And it really just perfected it. It uses this Norse mythology as sort of a separate scene, a separate feel altogether. But it still has enough that reflects back to the original trilogy that I played. I love this Kratos. He's probably my favorite character in a game at this point, this version of Kratos. And I was certain that I was going to be upset with sort of the escort-esque style of bringing my little kid around. But he was probably what made the game for me. Just that relationship between the two of them, watching that sort of rise and fall throughout the course of the story. It's just a beautifully told experience. I think whether or not you like the action adventure genre, I think you at least owe it to yourself to watch a playthrough of it online. Just get that experience into you somehow, because it's a really beautiful tale, and I think it's going to go far in PlayStation's roster of first party games.
Okay. Ryan, let's hand off to you.
So first off, fun fact. So everyone who is not happy in the chat right now, this game had the most first place votes out of any game on the list here. So by far and away, the people loved it the most. You know, the majority had loved it the most. Second, it's like Musty said, we've all played this game here on the show. It's a fantastic game, and it does start you off. It had me starting off kind of scratching my head, saying like, I don't know if I like these changes so much, and the still is too different. And granted, he's no longer, was it Greek? He's no longer, the Greek god of war anymore. He's in this other world. And I actually, over the time playing the game, I loved this more than any of the Greek mythology worlds. This Nordic world, I loved it. And I guess if I could have one gripe, it's I wanted more of it. But then again, I think we're all pretty sure that it's going to get a sequel, and they're going to go further on with this theme here. So I'm pretty happy with where that's going. I was not aware of the extra end credit scene that takes place after the credits. There's another scene, and the thing is, I didn't go back to my house. You have to go back to your house to see it. It wasn't until talking with a friend after beating the game, and him telling me, he's like, "Oh, did you see this happen?" I was like, "No, I don't remember that happening." He said, "Yeah, it does," and it's online. I believe we were talking about it on Hangouts, Musty, and I think Musty didn't experience it yet either.
I had not. I have now, and yeah,
it is definitely a journey. That's the story of the game, and believe me, it does pull back into that Greek world. It doesn't forget about it. And for a minute there at the beginning, I thought it did. And it does have homages to the older games. Like QuickTime events are definitely something that are part of the old games. So it's got a different perspective, and it's more challenging than any other God of War I've played, but it still is fantastic. So
Josh.
So yeah, I was gonna say I loved the original God of War trilogy, but I never really cared too much for Kratos at all. I just thought he was just, always angry at Zeus. What the hell? He's always just mad all the time. He's just one tone of voice, always pissed off at everything. And that's Kratos, right? And then you come into this game and he has emotional depth, and you learn a lot about him, and he has to live with the demons of his past. And you actually get to experience him, somebody that shouldn't be a father, become a father. And going through that experience and that journey was just phenomenal. And the acting and the graphics and the gameplay, everything just kind of coalesced into this, I would say, a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah, I want to make one more comment there, like you were saying about the growth and the character arc that Kratos has. For those who are fathers, for me in particular, I have a young son, and there were moments through this game where I felt it. I understood. I saw what was going on with this child, and watching this individual who's so driven by rage, and how he has to, now he doesn't have his wife to lean on, right? He's dealing with the stuff that is manifesting in his son, and it's incredible how they flip that on its head, and I really think that shouldn't be ignored there as well. But yeah. So yeah, that was the one that got the most first place votes, but let's open up the last game envelope and talk about the game that the club loved more than any other. And that game is not Disney Art Studio. That game is, oh, I ripped it. Marvel Spider-Man. And I think, funny enough, there are 3, if not more, of us on this panel alone that went and got the platinum on this. But I want to start off, Josh. Let's start with you on Spider-Man here.
Definitely, this is my game of the year this year. I think the main reason that it is my game of the year is it's just a ton of fun to play. I could go play Spider-Man right now and not have any missions to do and just swing around the city and just be in that world, because when you go to a Spider-Man game, what do you expect? You expect the swinging to be good. If they didn't nail that swinging, it wouldn't be a good game, right? And they actually continue that to make that better. And the combat is kind of like an Arkham. We're doing that for game of the month now, but it's kind of like Arkham combat. It's kind of mashy. It's a little button mashy, and it's still a lot of fun. I enjoy that. And the way they portray Spider-Man, it's different than any other Spider-Man. They take risks that I didn't expect in the story. And I love the portrayal of Doc Ock in this, especially. I feel like the actor that played him did an incredible job. And there are some reveals in this game. Like you think you're going to go into a Spider-Man game and go, oh yeah, he's going to become this guy and this is going to happen. You think you know what's going to happen. And then there are times in this game you're like, holy shit, that actually happened. Like, what? Yeah. And so I love Spider-Man, and they just made one of the most true Spider-Man. This is the best Spider-Man game, period, in my opinion. And yeah, highly recommended. And it's just a blast to play. And that's what you look for in a game, right? So yeah.
Miles, I know you also went for the platinum, but yeah, tell me about your experience with Spider-Man this year.
Oh boy, baby, Spider-Man! Honestly, I am a sucker for Tobey Maguire and Alfred Molina, so I had to get this game immediately. And although they had nothing to do with it, and I was very upset, the gameplay just completely pulled me in, and I couldn't stop playing. Catherine and I were just passing. We actually had a week off work at the same time, and we just ended up getting a platinum in 4 days on Spider-Man. So then we could return the game, get full credit back, got Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But Spider-Man was still good. We still had a good time with it. I think a lot of games where you have like stop 5 crimes in this area and like all these like busy work type quests. I've had enough of the games like that. But with Spider-Man, it was different because the gameplay itself was so much fun that I couldn't wait for busy work. It was just such a blast to complete. And despite the puddles, it was still a good game.
Good callback. Good callback. Dean, Spider-Man.
Yeah, this one is another one that I had pretty. I wasn't really sold on it, to be honest. I mean, I watched the trailers, but I actually reached out to some clubbers over Twitter. I said, I'm in the city. I'm going to pick up a game. I put a little poll together, and this was far and away like 80% of the votes was Spider-Man. So I ended up picking that up, not really sure what I was getting into. And from the very beginning to the very end, I had a huge smile on my face, right up until the credits roll. I think that we talked about the Arkham series before, and I think that as a superhero game sort of casts a shadow on some other superhero games, particularly Arkham Asylum, Arkham City. They're pretty well appreciated games, and I was worried I was getting into sort of a subpar experience there. But after the ratings started coming in and the feedback from the club, I knew it was going to be something special. I think this game really steps out of that shadow. I'd probably go as far to say that if nothing else, it really revolutionizes in-game traversal for an action adventure game. We saw it early on in the generations with Assassin's Creed and Mirror's Edge, where you could essentially just run into a wall. You don't have to press a button prompt and you sort of hop up there. And then you saw Infamous, where it added some verticality to that in some futuristic city settings. This game, I think, really perfected it. I don't think we can ever have another Spider-Man game where it doesn't follow this or make it even better. This is a new standard for open world traversal in a cityscape setting. I played this right after Red Dead, and I think even though it wasn't as robust as Red Dead, you're not walking into these skyscrapers and going up and robbing people, and it's fairly linear in that sense in terms of what you can do. But I think it strips out all of the unnecessary parts, and it's like they built this huge game and they said, okay, that's not fun, that's not fun, that's not fun, that's not fun, get rid of it, just keep the funnest parts of this game. That's what we want this experience to be. And I really can't think to a mission or a side quest or anything like that that wasn't just top tier awesome time. This is a great game. It's not too long, it's not too short, but you're going to have an awesome time the whole way through.
And you've got that constant flow of stuff, right? There's all those suits, right? Like, if there's a look that you like for Spider-Man, for the most part, it's in there. Or if it wasn't, it is there now. And yeah, this game, this is my only platinum trophy. I was not intending on doing it, but it just was that much fun. I'm not gonna say never. I think I fast traveled 5 times because you had to get a trophy. And fast travel was just.
It was fun though. The fast travel.
It was. It made for a good laugh.
Yes.
Yes. But there was just no reason to not. I have to go all the way up to the north part of the island. Let's do this. Like, let's go. And it really wasn't. Like eventually, you start to unlock these abilities that just make all of that so much easier. And yeah, this was my number 2 overall. And I think I don't want to step on Ryan's data, but I think this was the most number 2 votes.
Yeah. So, fun fact about this one: it had the most second place votes, and it was second and first place votes, and second and third place votes. So you can see why the majority, as opposed to people playing maybe God of War or Red Dead or something, they had other games, but the majority of people for the top 3 had this game in the top 3. That's why this game ultimately ended as the number 1 game for the Cartridge Club. For me, it was my number 1 game. One thing I could say about this, and I might have mentioned it on the CC Extra we did for this game, I've been to New York, so it's cool to see the Marvel universe as how it's envisioned, because you never quite see that in the comic books, how New York is always like kind of like the central hub for Earth, if you will, for Marvel. So you kind of have a general idea of where everything is. Well, at least with this game, it kind of shows you like, okay, well, as here I am, as I swing through the city, I can see a hotel I stayed at, and then I'm like, oh, that's cool, because Doctor Strange's place is right there, and that's cool that it's mentioned like that, where you're like, oh, this is right here by Madison Square Garden. So you're experiencing New York kind of through like Marvel's eyes. And if you ever be that, if you ever visit New York, that's, I think, something's really neat about the game. You do feel like Spider-Man in this game. It's one of the best superhero games I've ever played. It could be the best. It definitely is the best Spider-Man game I ever played. This is one of those games I did not want to end. I looked for every little bit of busy work for this game. Like Miles said, the busy work was not, boring to me. Basically, I'm swinging through the city because I'm like, all right, there's a story mission move, because I didn't want this game to end. All of a sudden you hear police chase in, whatever. There's a police chase going on, and you're right in the area. I'm stopping. Screw the story. I'm stopping these criminals because I don't want this game to end. I had so much fun playing it, swinging through the city, and then, like you said, Musty, like unlocking the different abilities, just seeing how fast you can go through the city, like running on the buildings. It was so much fun. It's one of those games that I could see maybe, people saying that there was better games this year, but to me, this was the most fun I've had in a video game in a very long time, where I just didn't want it to end. And I know there's DLC stories, packs right now, but I imagine there's going to be like a complete edition comes out, and when that comes out, I'm buying that day one so I can play these 4 extra story modes, because I just absolutely love the game. I look forward to seeing this franchise in the future, because I think it's an amazing series. This is my favorite interpretation of Peter Parker, of Miles Morales, and Mary Jane, of these characters. I think they did a fantastic job with all the characters, even Doc Ock. Everyone who was like a real character in this game nailed their parts. I don't know. To me, it was my favorite game. I had so much fun playing it this year. That's all I could say for it.
Yeah, the performances again. I brought up performances in God of War. The performances here should not be ignored. They deserve every bit of the accolades that they should have gotten. And I really enjoyed the entire portrayal.
I like J. Jonah Jameson the best.
Yeah, that was great with him as the InfoWars
Shock.
Yeah, it was like genius.
Yeah,
absolutely
so cool.
genius. And yes, I do want to point out to those who are listening, if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to the CC Extra that was done in October for Spider-Man, go listen to it. There's a lot of people, and I think a lot of people who just come fresh off of finishing the story too. So you're getting some really good commentary there that we just don't have the time to really dive into. But yeah, any final comments on Game of the Year? And no, well, okay.
If you haven't played it, go play it.
Go play it. Like if Spider-Man 2 on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube was the previous gold standard for Spider-Man games, that's a game for babies compared to this. Like just so good. Okay, I think we're ready for this.
The award for the night, right? The one everyone's here.
This is the big one. Everyone's here waiting to see what's in this envelope. This was something that we threw in last year that I just want to say, like, I really enjoyed what this
was. Let me say one thing here, quick, Musty. This was not originally when we formed this award show last year. This came up secondhand and turned out to be like the star where everyone was excited to see, even us. This originally, the show just started off to see like, oh, let's do a Game of the Year show, and then we're kind of like, you know what? Why don't we do this? Because we have a great amount of podcasters in the community here, and for fun, let's see what happens here. So, and this is the biggest draw every year now. I guess this is the second year, but still, this is like the big one. So,
yeah. So we're ready to do this.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're gonna open it. Podcast of the Year 2018, Cartridge Club, as voted on by their peers. Building the suspense here. So, hold on a second. How long can I draw this out, right? Don't you? So, this is the start to a new reign for a Podcast of the Year. Your winner of 2018's Podcast of the Year is Polykill.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Jake and Travis, on winning this year's award. I wish we could get you in here.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the chat to catch up to see what happens here, but yeah,
inventor of the Just Beat It's, right?
Inventor of the Just Beat It's, and I just wanted, let me just make a comment here, and we'll see what happens here.
Jake's in the chat, it looks like.
Jake's here too. So yeah, congratulations to both you guys. I think we've seen a lot of I was saying this to Travis earlier today, like there's the episodes just keep escalating in strength. Like I enjoy every single episode of this podcast, and I'm really happy to see that this has happened, and congratulations to you guys. You definitely earned it. So yeah, you killed it, guys. Good job.
Well deserved, guys.
Yes,
it's something the community loves doing, and they're competing to be on your show to hear the name for most beat it's on a show, right?
That's right. Even though it's always going to be Dean, because that's just how things go.
Yeah. Sorry, Dean.
No, it's an honor every time. These guys are incredible. I'm happy they got the first place. It's an amazing podcast.
It's the only podcast in the community that I haven't missed a single episode, and that's including my own podcast. So, guys, the Polykill, just amazing. If you're not already listening to it, definitely check them out. And they're just a wonderful, wonderful show, and just a treat every time I'm at work and there's a new episode.
I just wanted to say real quick, this is the probably the only podcast I listen to where somebody had to stop me and say, "What's wrong?" Because I was laughing so hard with my headphones on. Like, "Hey, Josh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." So yeah, they're hilarious. I love that show. So, congrats, guys.
For sure, for sure. Okay, well, I'm gonna see. That actually brings us to a close, unless I get a quick response here. But that's our award show for 2018. We got through it, and we made it in record time too. So,
hey, quick question for the panel: do you think like the Polykill, what's it called? What's the Polykill where you talk to Santa? Try to tell Santa about your podcast.
What's the ground game like?
The ground game. You know, they have a killer ground game. You know, got your Santa, your mall Santas, your postmen. You know, it worked. So take that into other Cartridge Club podcasts. Get them mall Santa votes. So but yeah, it's the guys were, I don't know, it was a really close vote too. So but in the end, what's it called? Polykill was number one. So
so I'm trying to see if we can we may have
a guest.
We may have a guest here, but while we're waiting for that, I again wanted to bring up, I wanted to first thank everyone who stuck out through this whole show. We've had a great audience here, and the reveals for the games. So again, we're playing Zelda 2 for April. We're playing Shenmue for May. We're playing Uncharted 2 for June, and we are playing Batman Arkham City for July. I again want to mention that we will be doing again for August. We'll be doing a patron nominated and patron voted game for the podcast. And again, congratulations to those who have won, everyone who was nominated, and we look forward to doing this kind of thing for you. For you again, for as long as you guys are willing to do this. What I think would be really cool is some year for this to eventually not necessarily be about us doing a list of 10 games, but having a bunch of awards for a bunch of categories. And as not necessarily be about. We have a special guest here, Travis. Congrats, man! You are the podcast of the year, you and Jake.
It's truly the craziest thing to have met some of the finest people on the internet by a fluke chance, thanks to Diego Avila for introducing us to such a fine group. And yeah, it's really amazing. I would have never thought over the course of a year we would make so many friends and come this far and be awarded with such a cool thing. It's really cool. So thank you guys.
No problem. Well deserved. You guys are amazing. So
means a lot.
Wait a second. Are you wearing a Super Mario hat?
No,
hey, this guy's Nintendo.
It's just a normal hat.
Nintendo.
Just a normal hat.
He's been taken over by Cappy. He's not really. It's not really Travis. But thank you. Yeah, thank you for hopping in here. Awesome.
No problem. No problem. We got another list of games we want to go down. You got 20 more you want to just run through?
No, I think we're gonna let people go about their days. But
Far Cry 5 was great. I really liked it. I know Miles really enjoyed it. The villain was really special. I mean, just David. He's David, the embodiment of David Koresh. Wouldn't you say, Miles? You're a cult expert.
Hey, if I knew where to get those sunglasses, boy, I'd be wearing those sunglasses starting my own cult.
You'd have a line of people following you. You'd be barefoot with a guitar and just all kinds of hippies in your convent. Am I right?
Yeah, I couldn't feed them, but they could come and hang out. Hey.
All matters. Friends are friends.
You guys are great. Ryan, let's crash the plane or whatever it's called.
Sure. Let me just pull up some information here. All right. So, like I said, Musty said we announced the games for coming up for Prime, which was Zelda 2, Shenmue, Uncharted 2, Batman Arkham City. I'll buy them all, play them along with us, join us for the months. With that being said, I'm going to say goodbye to the panel here. So I'll start off with Dean. Where can we find you on the internet?
Sure. You can find me at round_2_gaming on Twitter. You can also find me on the Cartridge Club forums, spreading new threads and just chatting up the CC Prime and CC Portable Games of the Month. And thank you guys for having me. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite events that the Cartridge Club does. And to be included in this 2 years in a row was really special. So thank you.
No problem, buddy. Josh, where can we find you on the internet?
Yes, I do a podcast every week. It's on a short hiatus, but it's coming back very soon. It's called Frantic Thoughts, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Frantic Society and talk video games.
Thanks for being here. And Miles, where can we find you on our show?
Sorry, just a second. Yeah, it's Rob from Bonus Barrel. Yeah, it is garbage. I know. It is plenty of garbage. Travis is gone, right? Travis is gone?
Yeah, he's gone.
Okay. So you could find, I do a podcast with Catherine and Chris, and it's called Flock Talk, and we do it on the first of every month. And you could probably find some new videos coming soon on our Flock of Nerds YouTube channel. You can also find me on Twitter at Milo the Great One or at Flock of Nerds.
And for myself, you can find me on Twitter at It's Rocket Sauce. I also have an Instagram. It's Rocket Sauce on there too. And generally I'm on the weekly hangouts on Tuesday nights. So, and then last but not least, Musty, where can we find you? Oh, also, sorry. I'm also one of the co-hosts for CC Prime. So Musty.
Not to be forgotten. Yes. So I am also the other co-host to CC Prime, but you can find me on Twitter at Musty Hobbit. You can find the YouTube channel for Second Breakfast, which we'll have some content at some point here. I've been taking a little time away from that. But anyways, we really want to thank again everyone who stuck it out and those who are still here with us as we kind of meander our way to the end. But thank you for doing this. This was a blast, and we will look forward to doing this again very, very soon. But for now, I think we all really just have one final thing to say to kind of put a bow on this whole thing. And so let's go with CC Unite. We'll see you guys later.